Hello and welcome to another Leica review. I recently got asked about a question with regards to the TL2, the new camera from Leica. They asked me if it was worthwhile buying a camera if they were going to use it for photography purposes, that the 16 megapixels would be ideal for their purposes. And I said, it depends on the kind of photography you want to do, and they asked me for some samples and some explanations. And I thought it would be a good time to explain what this camera can do and what the other camera, the older version, can do. And more importantly, I want to talk about the difference between 16 megapixels versus 24 megapixels. You see, a lot of professional cameras like the Canons and Nikon's top of the range cameras, we're talking about, for example, the D5. You look at that camera and you notice that it has almost 20 megapixels. It's not the 36 megapixels or the 46 megapixels because it was designed for a specific purpose in mind. It was designed for professionals. Same way the Canon had designed their top of the line 1DX Mark II. In fact, if you look at Canon 1DX, it only had 20 megapixels. It was not a big issue. It did not make a big difference for the professionals. And the reason is, most of the time, 16 megapixels or 20 megapixels is more than ample to use it for most of the photography that's in magazines, as well as the internet. In fact, the one on internet can be had for almost with 12 megapixels. So having more megapixels, especially on an APS-C sensor, is sometimes not always a better thing. Sometimes the 16 megapixels works quite fine. And I wanted to show you what you could get with 16 megapixels. And I have taken some photographs from my filming sessions. And these photographs that were taken are just some of the samples what you can do if you have proper lighting or perhaps an environment where photography can be had. And the idea behind it is that the camera does not make you a better photographer. Your skill set is what makes you a better photographer. So let's examine these photographs, and also I will include a little short sample of some footage that I had, which is an HD quality, which is the older version, and you can make your decisions on whether that was something that you would like to have. So let's go on. So let's begin by looking at these photographs. These are straight out of the camera. I'm showing you JPEGs. This was one of the shoots that we had for a music video, and the guy that is coming up the stairs is a parkour runner, so he does a lot of running and tricks in the air, and that's one of the reasons why we use it. But here's something I would like you to understand. Look at in the background how beautifully detailed it is. It's got the beautiful contrast, it has beautiful details, it has the shadows, and has the lighting. So if you have good lighting, it's gonna show up no matter how good the camera is. And if you have bad lighting, even if you have the best camera, you can only get to have a little bit of advantage. You will not have tremendous advantage in being able to manipulate the dynamic range. One of the key importance that any camera should have is a good dynamic range. And if you look at this photograph, you'll see that I could open the highlights, I could open the shadows, get a lot of details. But straight out of the camera, we can see the Leica T and the TL camera can perform quite well. And this is more than sufficient for anyone who's using this type of camera. Even if you took this photograph and blew up to like a 20 by 20 or 20 by 30, you're still gonna have quite a lot of details. You're not gonna have an image that is blurry or of low quality. This is the kind of image that is good for all kinds of uses. Whether you want to put it on web, whether you want to share it on social media, or if you just want to have it in your files. This is, in my point of view, as good as a film that captured back 1970s and 80s in terms of the number of details. If you blew up those photographs, this photograph will probably look better because of the details that it has. You notice that there is almost no noise. This is the beauty of this. And this was shot at a relatively high ISO of about 800. Now, if you look at the 800 ISO, you're going to have some bit of noise. But here we are seeing that there's almost no noise. And that is the beauty of having modern cameras. It gives you that ability. Now, going up to 24 megapixels, your light sensitivity is going to drop. Because why? The megapixels that you have, the pixels on the sensor, is just increased. So they have less ability to gather, less surface to gather light. So sometimes it's not always better to have a 24 megapixels. Now the software though, on the other hand, has been catching up. So that's why you're seeing a lot of the camera manufacturers offering 24 megapixels on the APS-C size sensor. And in a certain way, that is sort of the limit of what you can push it with. Now, has there been other companies that have tried to push it beyond this limit? Of course there are. The Sigma's Quadro has pushed it up to 45, 46 megapixels on APS-C. Do you really need it? Personally, I think if you are doing professional photography, even this would do. I mean, if you took this photograph and you kind of tweaked it in one way or another and used that DNG or the RAW file, you could get amazing images. And if you were to present this to a client, they would say, you know what, those are really nice shots. And we could even go further and use this kind of lighting to for example, for a commercial shoot or other purposes. Now, I like to go to the second photograph. This is one that we were doing another music video on. And the gentleman at the door is a French gentleman. The other lady is an actress that's well known. And this one is a shoot that we did. And notice the interior, how well it's lit. Because you look at the exterior, you right out the door, it's very high contrast. And of course, the greenery in the background is somewhat high contrast there. There's a lot of light. And of course, the part that's white's almost what I call is overblown. But that's okay because we are exposing for the interior. We're not doing HDR type of photography, which is the high dynamic range. And if we did, I could take this photograph, duplicate it, and use the background and save some of those highlights to make this photograph even more. And this I teach in my photography workshop, show you how to take two images of identical things and make it such that you can get more highlights, more details, more out of that image because your camera has done the work for you, the heavy lifting. It's because the 16 megapixels or 20 megapixels is more than sufficient to get what you're looking for. Now, I didn't tweak any of this, but I would normally take this photograph into the Lightroom, lift up the shadows a little bit so I get a little more spark on the face. But the reason I kept this photograph like this is to show you that even under low light circumstances, that you could get amazing results from a small compact camera like the Leica T and the TL. And that it's not always needed to go into a more complicated camera or more megapixels. Because what it does more megapixels do, it gives you more details if you are doing a photograph or you're blowing it up to a certain size. And if you're not blowing up to a certain size, well, this more than does the job quite well. Now notice that I'm using, on the left hand side, you'll see these three headlights. They are not on, but when they're on, they're gonna illuminate the space quite well, and which we're gonna see in the upcoming shots. And notice that I'm using Red Epic here, which is a very good film camera, and I did not go and put these expensive big lenses on it, which makes it heavy. I use a relatively well-made lens and it gave me great results. Now, I would have wished that there was more options in terms of using the space with lights from different angles to create different looks. But this was sufficient with these 3 lights to create the image that I wanted. Here again, I wanted to put the second photo to show you the highlights outside. And notice how this whole space was lit up and beautifully captured by this Leica T. This one here speaks about the capabilities of the dynamic range. If it can expose correctly for the interior space and give you that image, that's what you're looking for. And this is one of the things I teach all the time. I say, expose for the person, expose for the subject, not the background, nor the foreground. But when you expose it correctly, then you can get great images no matter what. Okay, so again, going back to the photograph that I had in my work with the music video, this is another photograph. Notice how the lighting has really highlighted the subject, which is right in the center. And notice how much beautiful glow that we are getting from his skin, from the looks. Everything is in great focus. And this is the beauty of using a camera that is well made. Now, if the optics were not as good, we will not have such a beautiful image. And what makes this image beautiful is you got something in the foreground telling you what's going on, and you got the subject in the middle, and the background is beautifully giving the contrast, the storytelling of what's going on. And this is something that people should look into, photographers should learn, because a lot of people just want to concentrate on the subject when you should be looking at it as a whole composition. And that is something that is more of an investment as a person who's an avid photographer or amateur photographer, that they should look into making their photographs better rather than investing in better cameras. That doesn't mean that you cannot use better cameras to capture better images. You can, you just have to have the skill set to do it. Now, going on to our fourth photograph, this is where I'm showing them what the image we got. And this is from the other angle. And again, look at beautifully lit up actress. Look at their faces. They're all lit up. My face is in beautiful lit up point. And that's showing you that the camera was able to do that. And there's this beautiful glow to the image because it was well lit. Now, we had some light that was coming from the top. And there was a sky panel. So we were able to get this image so well. And also the light from the exterior was shining, but you notice that nothing is blown out. Of course, we see the door, but again, we are exposing for the subject and not the exterior. And going on to the next image, you see that this was a bedroom shot. And I wanted to show you again here that if you have enough darkness and light, you can make the image give the atmosphere, the mood. And that is what's important. A lot of people miss the fact that if you are able to create the mood, that is the most important. It is the ability to use and manipulate light to tell your story. And if you look at the word photography, it means painting with light. And what we have done is we painted the lights. We highlighted parts of the image that we wanted to have importance of. And I also wanted to show that this image that we took was a telling of a story. This was a bedroom scene. So we wanted to make sure that it was a beautiful scene. It was well lit. And we wanted to use a natural light that was coming from the exterior, but we didn't want to have a lot of reflections. Notice the background that it doesn't have a lot of reflection. It has just enough reflection to show and highlight the dreams that's written on top, and the bed and her face a little bit. That's giving the direction of the light. And there was also light coming in from behind the camera where the French doors were, and they were also lighting her up a little bit. And we aided this by using a Philex 360, and you notice how beautiful her features are standing out. And we notice that it's a beautiful bedroom scene, and this is the type of look that you want to create when you're working with subjects that are beautiful, because you want to bring out their highlights. Again, here, I wanted to show you the type of lighting we did to create that look And if you notice, there are several people working here. And what we did is we lined this hallway with lights coming from the ground, lighting them up, giving this halo-ish light. And of course, when it was contrasting with the lights coming from the top, it gave them this beautiful movement going in with each step, that they were getting this beautiful look that was coming because there was shadows and light playing. If it was beautifully lit throughout everywhere, that there was no contrast between the shadows and light, you will not have such a great look. And I want to show this and take this photograph. The man on the right hand side with the gray shirt is also holding a light, lighting up the surface on the ground. This was a way that a lot of films and videos were shot, especially if you look at Justin Bieber's video. They actually put water on the ground and they lit it up so that there was reflection coming in, and that is called the bounce light that we have, and that gives this beautiful accented look. Now, going on to the next photograph, I wanted to show you this, and notice how we have created this special look. This was a part of an interview that I did, part of the documentary work that I'm doing on music in the west coast of Canada and United States. And these two gentlemen are musicians. They play in a band and they have this beautiful setup that we did their interview in. And notice how beautiful it is. We're having almost these flare shots coming from the left top corner, and there's also light coming from the right hand side, and it looks like they're looking out to a window. And there is no window in this space, but it gives that look. And this is what you want to do. You want to create that dreamy feeling of being able to do it. And notice how we place the subject right there. We notice that your eye kind of scans towards the right and focuses on that rule of thirds that the gentleman is looking at. And notice there is a juxtapose of two characters looking in different directions, and that gives this beauty to this image. And this was shot not rehearsed, it was just shot at the moment, and I wanted to capture that was natural, that was beautiful. I could tweak this photograph. This is JPEG straight out of the camera, nothing touched. I could tweak this photograph even more to get more of it, but just the raw image that just came out as JPEG is spectacular. You could take this image and use it for many purposes and present it to a client, and they will say, wow, that's a great image, because it tells a story. And if you have thought about your photograph before you took your photograph, then you have done your job. 90% of the work is done. You cannot reframe a photograph if it's in the wrong format. You could crop it, but you cannot reframe it. You can only downsize it, and that will change the framing, but it will not change the original framing. So framing becomes important. The way you light up becomes important, and there is nothing extra in this image. Every bit of it tells a story, and this is what you should be looking for. And using a simple camera like the Leica T and TL gives you this image. So if you wanted to take, for example, a Leica M, you'll still get a great image. If you took a Leica S, you still get a great image. But I didn't want to take a Leica S in there. I wanted to take something compact because I knew what the purpose of this photograph was going to be. And this is why we have such a great photograph here. Now, going on to the next photograph, I wanted to also show you what it would look like if all the subjects were sitting. Now, this is a group that we had of 4 people that we were interviewing. And notice the subject on the left-hand side. Now, this one, I particularly wanted to put it in, not because it's a good shot. It's a shot that I wanted to show you how the lighting works. Again, here, what we're having is these flare shots coming in from the right-hand side. And look how well the person that's seated on the far left is lit up. This is what I'm talking about. Nobody is out of shot. Nobody is not well lit. Everybody has some kind of a light illuminating their features, their faces. And this is what you should be looking for. Now, going on to the next photograph. Again, here I wanted to show you what a good photograph should look like. The light coming in, you'll notice the gentleman on the right hand side, how beautiful in the moment he is. We look at the interaction between the male and the female lead, and you notice there's a beautiful interaction there. It is right, a complete picture. Now I could crop this and just leave the 2 there, or I could put the 3 in there, or you could use the whole picture. This gives you many options of how you can use an image. And if you notice something that's important is, look at the guitars and the musical instruments. They are also well lit. It tells you a story. And this is something that tells you of the background. If we didn't have the background, we wouldn't know what these people are about. And we know that these people are musicians because of the instruments in the back and their settings and their attire. They play the part. And this is what brings out the beauty in these kind of images. Now, going on to the next image, I want to show you again here the lighting we had on the ground. And I wanted to also show you how much light is required sometimes to create that look. And sometimes you need to be able to light up a space, not the person, the subject. You want to light up the space so the subject looks good rather than trying to light up the subject. Now, a lot of photographers, what they do is they put a light, whether it's a soft key light or hair light or one of those rings that have the light to light up the face to take a photograph. But if you are lighting from the exterior of the space around them, you are giving it more of a natural look. And I like the natural look because it makes it look like it was shot in a moment rather than something that was posed for. Now, pose photography, there's nothing wrong with it. Actually, it's been used for decades and decades, but I prefer to have a natural look because then it gives the story of whether it was at that very moment that you captured it, that instant, rather than being something, oh, well, they had to work on getting that shot. It makes it look effortless. And that's what I like about photography, making it look effortless. Again, here, the next image, I wanted to also show you the scene that was going to be part of the film. Notice, again, here, there is a light, the P360 that I'm using, lighting it up from the side. There's light coming from the top, but I didn't want to have dark shadows. I wanted to have a softer light, giving a romantic look. Again, speaking about the mood here, notice how the gentleman looks. He looks happy. His face is well lit. Nothing is in the dark. And we used a concave reflector. And this is beautiful because it gives a wrapping light. Now, most people make the mistake of buying these big, flat, round, or elliptic type of reflectors, and that only bounces off light in one direction. People don't realize that you need to wrap the light around the subject. Again, here, we're wrapping the light around. And if you are able to use the camera to capture this image, then you have done your job. Whether you have 24 megapixels on the TL2 is not going to make that difference. It's going to make a difference of how you shaped it with light. Again, what I will tell you is whether you use a Leica M or a Leica SL or any other camera, even the Leica Q will give you a great image. You just have to know how to frame it. Now, the difficulty with using, for example, a fixed lens camera like Leica Q, which is 28 millimeter, you are going to be only limited to a certain kind of portion. You cannot really do a great for example, portraiture if you are trying to do it, because you are most likely going to crop it. There's nothing wrong with cropping, of course, but it gives you just one angle of view. What I do like is using a Leica T or a TL2, you can switch lenses and get different angles of view, giving you a different structure, different composition. Now, personally, I recently shot with putting 135 millimeter on the Leica T, and what has happened is that it gave a multiplication factor of 1.5. So what you're having is almost 210 millimeters. So what is happening is this incredible angle of view for portraiture, for different kind of perspective. And that's what makes the image interesting rather than just having a wide angle that shows everything. Of course, getting a shallow depth of field is important, but depends on what you're trying to do. If you're doing portraiture, you want to have the shallow depth of field. Here, we wanted to show the environment that this is in. So you see the photograph tells the background, tells the foreground. And of course, this was shot to show you the lighting, but you can understand the general concept that goes into it. Now, some people have talked about how it is that the images are coming from. For example, if you are filming. Now, there are issues with filming, and I'll show you about those. But you have to realize that the problem with filming is you have to be able to manipulate the settings in the camera. This camera does not allow you to set it. And I will share two short parts, and you please watch them. And then look at how the correct lighting helps to capture a good video. If you are outside in exterior space, you're gonna get highlights no matter whether you're using a Leica Tl2 or Leica T, because the settings have to be able to be manipulated. If you cannot play with the settings, you're going to have problems. So that means you have to be able to set your ISO, you have to be able to set your aperture, you have to be able to play with the various settings in your camera. If it means you're gonna shoot at 50 frames per second or 24 frames per second, that is gonna determine how you're going to get it. Now, as you know, the Leica T, TL, TL2, they don't go up high frames like some of the other cameras that are in the market, especially for filming purposes. But yet again, with 24 frames, you should be able to get great images. So I'm going to share these two photographs, and then we wrap it up and then talk about other things in our next review. And I hope this has been informative. I hope this has been something that you can take into your next photography session or to next project and make it more powerful. I hope that has been an informative review of what the TL or the T cameras can do, and whether you will need to get a TL2 will only depend on your needs. And of course, I would appreciate it if you could like the channels and subscribe to our channel. Now, we have recently upgraded our website, the leicareview.com. I provide a link down below where you can visit and read more in-depth articles on other cameras and lenses that are produced from Leica.